Welcome to the Mom Owned and Operated podcast, the podcast about moms and for moms, where we have candid conversations about running a business, raising a family, and remembering ourselves. I'm your host, Rita Suzanne, a single mom of four, digital strategist, and provider of no-nonsense business strategies and tactics. Hi, this is Mom Owned and Operated. I'm Rita Suzanne, and today I have my guest, Tina Hines, with me. Tina, I am so excited to chat with you today. Please tell everyone all about you, your business, and your family.
Well, I am glad to be here, Rita. My name again is Tina C. Hines. I am a fifth generation healer, intuitive clairvoyant, and a medium. And I am also a transformation specialist, also known as a transformation coach for many. And I spent 30 years in corporate America before taking the leap without a safety net to continue working as a transformation coach. I am the mom of one and the wife of none. And I currently reside in Marrakesh, Morocco. I've been here for a little less than a year. Me and my son are here. And I have just been on this amazing journey of supporting women in their healing and tapping into more of what brings them joy. And I am excited to share that with your audience.
I love it. How do you go from corporate to transformation coach and healer? Like, how does that happen?
I had gone through this amazing awakening at the age of 40. I'd gone through an awakening, and my gifts started to make their presence known. And as I was working in it, I was also at the time working in philanthropic, and it's an area where we devoted our resources to health and healthcare in the United States. And although we were in a space where we were giving, I got to a point where it did not bring me joy. I was unfulfilled with it. And I had started my coaching practice in the midst of working in corporate America. And I realized that every time I worked with something or worked with someone, or I hosted one of my international healing retreats, there was something inside of me that felt like a tank was consistently filling up. And, as time progressed, I just was falling into a downward spiral of depression because I was unhappy there. It wasn't the boss, it wasn't the job, it was just the value that I thought that I was giving, I felt it should be given in a different way. Mm. And so after processing it and over processing the decision that I needed to make, I woke up one day and just decided that I needed to leave my corporate job. And I reached out to my supervisor and I said, listen, I love you so much, but I need to go. I love me more. And so we had a great conversation. I handed in my resignation letter, but unlike most places, I resigned in May, but I didn't walk out of the door until December. Because I wanted to make sure everything was okay. And I had not fully planned that leap. Basically, I leaped without a safety net. And I was just saying to myself, this is going to work. It has to work. Of course, it's going to have its ebbs and flows. And I'm okay with that. But I was a young mom, so I had given my all to him. Mm-hmm. And I was now in what I call me season. And it was totally 100% focused on me and identifying what brought me joy, what was going to give me the fulfillment that we desire. And so I surrendered to it. I surrendered to this space and leaving the comfortable, i.e. uncomfortable career, and leaned more into the practice of supporting other women in their healing.
Yeah. So what exactly does a transformation coach or healer do for those who may not really know how that works?
So with transformation coaching, for me, the work that I do is tapping into areas that may be causing a little bit of dis-ease in your life. A lot of times we take a journey backwards to get to the root cause of the big T or little t, as someone shared with me, trauma that we experience. Important to identify if the support you need is coaching and not therapeutic, because there is that fine line that I don't cross. And we have different types of conversations that allows me to not only hear what you do say, but what you don't say. because my gifts allow me to go a little bit deeper, and they're spiritually guided of the questions that I ask. When I am doing the transformation coaching, we tap into one specific area that you want to focus on. If you're experiencing a blockage in your life, if you're struggling with fear and self-doubt and loving yourself, self-love and self-care, we identify what is the root cause of this not happening in your life. With the energy healing that I do, it's almost like people who call it Reiki. I don't call it Reiki because I'm not Reiki certified. But I do go over your body and identify where there could be a blockage and explain what I see as that blockage. Recently, I had a group of women here in Morocco, and they asked me to perform an energy clearing. And one of them, they were so still in their session. And after I took her through her guided meditation and I cleared her energy and we were having a discussion at the end, I said to her, "You would not move." And I says, part of the reason you won't move is because you don't want to be seen. Because each time you're seen, that means someone's going to ask you for something, ask you for help. And you're tired and you don't want to give any more help to anybody. It's time for you to give to yourself. She says, I would have never figured that out. That's why I was remaining so still. And so there were certain things that were transpiring during the session. And for the most part, a lot of the women who come to me don't feel seen or heard. And they're tired, and they're empty nesters. So some of them, their children are leaving home. And we start identifying what they could do differently and go back into what were they dreaming about, or what did they want to do before they became a parent, before they got married? What did they place on the back burner in order to take care of the family unit that they had created? So we tap into that as well. And with the transformation coaching, I'm giving you specific tools for you to use in order for you to consistently use them once our time together has come to an end. I tell all of my clients, I don't want to spend the rest of your life with you. We're going to work on your specific area. If there's other situations that come to the surface, we can identify and work on them too. But we're not going to work on the same thing year after year. That means one of us is not doing the work that we're supposed to be doing, and we're going to tap into that. So it's always an interesting journey because each client's needs are similar, but not the same. And a lot of what I do is spiritually led. I like to say I'm guided by my great-great-grandmother, Grandma Jenny, whom everybody seems to love. I think they love her more than me. Because they say, is Grandma Jenny going to be in my session today? I don't know. But it's interesting. I love this work. I love seeing the breakthroughs that women experience and allows them to have their aha moment and the observation of the journey as they are evolving.
Yeah, it's like you're empowering them to actually find themselves again, because I feel like oftentimes as women and moms, especially as a younger mom, you lose yourself a lot sooner than, maybe someone who waits to have their kids. I think that, you get lost in that new role a lot faster. So when you mentioned that there's a lot of commonalities, what are some of the things that you find that are similar in the women that you're working with?
With the women that I have worked with, for one, I said they're becoming empty nesters. So they're realizing how much they've poured into everybody else. Yeah. And they were not pouring, their cups were not being filled. That is one of the biggest ones. The trauma that they may have experienced growing up, whatever area it is, they feel as if they have worked on it, but they really haven't. And I always tell my clients, don't focus on letting it go. Identify how you can navigate your life differently in spite of what happened. What can you do in spite of you've been raped? What can you do in spite of you were a survivor of domestic abuse? Because that situation happened and you are consistently reliving it because it is a part of you, and we honor and respect that. However, What do you do to have power over it versus it having power over you?
Mhm.
So I deal, there's some abuse that comes into play as well. Fear. Oh, fear is the biggest area that people identify with. The fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
I just fear the unknown. And whenever I cringe whenever I hear it, because I say, everything is unknown. There is
Right.
nothing that has transpired in your life that is actually known. You don't know what the next word is going to come out of your mouth. You don't know if you're going to get up from the couch to walk in the kitchen and you're going to stump your toe. You didn't know that was going to happen. Everything is unknown. If you try to stay in your comfort zone, here's the most interesting thing. Everything you want is outside of your comfort zone.
Mhm.
Everything you have is inside of your comfort zone. At some point, everything you have was once outside of your comfort zone. So it's okay for you to step out of it to go get what you desire. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Tina.
Especially, like the moms who are listening are, most of them are business owners. And I feel like a lot of them, they they want to do more. They want to go outside of that comfort zone, but there is so much fear wrapped around it, right? Fear of judgment, fear of failure, fear of, again,
Mhm.
the unknown, or, all of those things. And so I feel like that is probably one of the biggest things that hold them back, I'm sure.
Mhm. Yes.
Yeah.
But even here's the most interesting thing. I don't know if I was reading it the other day or it just came to mind in my 3 o'clock wake up hour. When we talk about fear, we fear of failure, we fear of success. This is just my personal opinion, moms. The fear of failure means that we have to face people who were saying, oh, I knew she wasn't going to make it, or whatever was going to happen. The fear of the success is you have to deal with the people you may lose in the midst of the success
Mhm.
because they may not be on the same journey as you, and you want to avoid anyone that's going to sabotage you, including yourself. And so you fear also with the success that I may have to let some people go, or some people may remove themselves from my life. And that's also the balance between the fear of somebody's going to talk to me and say, "Ooh, I knew it wasn't going to happen," or what have you. They're going to have an opinion of it,
Mhm.
versus I have to let these people go. They no longer fit the new life that I'm creating for myself.
Yeah, that's scary to walk away from people, and you have to be okay with doing
Mm-hmm.
that. And one thing that I always say when having a business is there's so much self-discovery that comes along and self-growth that has to happen when you become an entrepreneur, when you have a
Mm-hmm.
business. Because if you don't do it, I feel like your business will stall out. It will fail because you're
Yeah.
not able to grow with your business. Do
Mm-hmm.
you find that to be the same? Like, do you find that to be true?
What's so interesting is I've always had amazing women in my life,
Hmm.
and I have not truly lost um, my I call them my front row sisters. And my front row sisters are amazing. Even when I made the decision, I when I left my job a month later, I relocated to Georgia, and I lived in Georgia for 6 years before moving to Morocco. And what was so interesting is I think they were more upset when I left Georgia than when I moved to Morocco, because they have always been very supportive of me and this journey that I have been on. And I truly believe that Gus, as I call them, God, Universe, Source, has positioned the right individuals around me to support me on this journey.
Hmm.
And anyone that was not the right person or did not fit the mold were released with love. And I never really had to do anything or say anything for that to happen. It is a challenge when you have your business, because your mindset is different, and the way that you manage situations is different. Neither of my friends are entrepreneurs. This is not
Right.
the space that they're in, but they understand the work that I was called to do. what's so interesting is one of them had a serious conversation with me early on, because we had been friends like since we were 15 years old. And my mind was, my friends got to come with me. My friends have to come with me. And one day she sat me down and she said, listen, I see what you're trying to do. And I was like, what do you mean? She says, you want me to go to every event. You want me to come and show up to this. And she goes, Tina, this is your space. It's not mine. And I'm okay with that. I don't have to be with you. I just want you to know that you were given this gift. I wasn't. And I am going to always have your back. You go do what you need to do. I have you. And it took her to say that really hit home for me, and for me to flourish and allow other people to enter my life. Because I'm like, I'm not cheating on my friends.
Well, and she's such an amazing friend too, but also like a comfort for you to have her with you, right? To have her walk with you. And, you know, it's almost like a security blanket of having her beside you, and for her to say, you know what, I think you can do this by yourself. Tina, you're great. You can do this, but I'm still going to be here for you when you need me. And I love that. I think that that's an amazing friend. You know, for her to still stand beside you. It's hard though to do it by yourself, especially when your friends are not in that same space.
Correct. So, I agree.
Yeah. Because one of my best friends is not an entrepreneur, and I feel I'm over there like saying, like explaining things, and I'm like, he does not understand anything I'm talking about. But I'm still going to tell. I'm still going to say, you know, but, you know, super supportive and everything as best as possible. So I love all of that. And so as far as like a spiritual awakening, how does that impact like your relationships, and how does that make things change? Because I know several people who've had spiritual awakenings, and their lives have changed so dramatically.
When you say relationships, what do you mean? Romantic or friendship or otherwise?
Oh, like personal relationships. I think just with themselves, like I think it once they change, all of their relationships have changed.
Yeah. So for me, going through this awakening, as I said, it happened when I was 40. And I truly believe that it happened at the right time, because I had had a lot of life's experiences by that time. And those experiences were going to show up in the women that I would serve.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I strive for is to always make people feel comfortable in spite of my gifts. However, I made the conscious decision that I was not going to downplay it, especially after I left corporate America. Didn't realize how much I had used my gift during my time in corporate, because I wasn't aware of it. It was just me being organic of, I'm helping you and I'm serving you. And once I left corporate, I was so unapologetic. And I was like, this is who I am. And oddly enough, I typically lead with my gift, so people won't have to wonder of, how did you know that? Or what made you ask me that question, which is what happens a lot. The awakening came with its highs and lows, where I had to learn to be more selective in the places that I would go, because I'm highly sensitive, and it can trigger me in some way that sort of it's almost like somebody, like a balloon that's letting all the air out. That's exactly how I feel when I'm in certain environments where especially it's crowded. Most people would think that as I've gone through my awakening, that I spend my days reading them, and I don't. I'm like, I don't have the energy to read everyone who walks past me. I would never leave my house. I would become a recluse. I know that I operate from a place of light. So what's interesting is when I do encounter individuals who struggle with believing about the gift, and I honestly tell them, it's not my job to convince you. I'm just here to do what I was called to do. And there's no ulterior motive when it comes to it. I think more people struggle with it because they lack understanding. And because when you're working in the spiritual space, there are many components of it, and we all don't operate the same. And when someone comes to me for a reading, I typically say, have you had a reading in the past? Because their expectation is this reader is like this reader is like this reader. And I'm like, no, we're not all the same. Sorry, I'm getting a ringing in my ear. We're not all the same. And I am about 95% spiritually guided by my great great grandmother who has transitioned. I never had the pleasure of meeting her. And the biggest question when I went through my awakening was people asking me, how did I know? How did you know that you had a gift? How did you know that Grandma Jenny is your spirit guide? It took getting quiet. And unfortunately, that getting quiet was clinical depression. And I was going through the awakening and the depression at the same time. So I was trying to understand both of them because I had never experienced depression either. Right. And so I got a therapist. I worked with a therapist. I worked with somebody who did Reiki to support me in both places. What was great was my therapist was in tune with it. And that was very helpful to me. So I had to find the right therapist. When I went through it, I started asking family members because it was something that was not discussed in our household. And in the process of it, they sent me to one of my grandmother's nieces, who was our elder in our family, to ask her about it. And I said to her, I think I'm going crazy. I think I need to go to the hospital. And she goes, why? I says, because I'm seeing Nana, which was my grandmother, and I'm seeing her mother. My grandmother and her mother were sisters. And I says, I'm seeing Grandma Harriet, which is my great grandmother. And I'm seeing some woman, I don't know who she is. And she says, describe her to me. And so I proceeded to describe what Grandma Jenny looked like. And she says, when we go back home, I want you to go in my dining room. And there's a picture of that woman. That's your great grandmother. That's your Grandma Jenny. And you're just like her. And I've been waiting for you. And that's how I found out.
Wow. That's so powerful.
And that's how I found out.
That's amazing. I love that.
But the best part about that, Rita, is this. My grandmother had dreams, and one of my aunts had my grandmother's journals where she wrote her dreams. And I was the first one in the family to read those journals and saw some of the dreams that she had written, as well as a little bit of family history in the journals. And I'm talking to one of my aunts and I'm like, do you remember this happening? She's like, no. I was like, I remember. And I'm giving her descriptions and she's like, there's no way you would have remembered this. You were like 2. And I'm telling her that I remember it transpiring. And so that's where the gift comes from. Everybody has a different component. My grandmother had dreams. Her sister could lay hands on people and heal them. Their grandmother had the gift of sight. And my Grandma Jenny had the dreams, the sight, the healing. And I'm 100% like her. I have all of those gifts as well.
Do you think that it's hard for some people to believe and or accept just because they've never experienced something like that before themselves? Is that why there's maybe a little bit of a skepticism?
I think the skepticism comes from a couple of things. One is because they probably have yet to experience it before, or they've experienced it and they haven't learned how to manage it. And from religious upbringing. For some people, this is considered evil, it's considered the devil. But I still can't quite understand because you have prophets in church. So I don't understand how the two mesh with one another. But it's a lack of understanding and not wanting to understand, and religious upbringing of what they were taught and how they struggle with what I was taught and what I see is happening in front of me.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you something off after the fact, but okay. So let's do a little pivot and talk a lot about. So something that I always want to talk about is self-care. And so one thing that I want to talk about, because you moved to Morocco, I feel like you're doing so much self-care. I feel like, first of all, maybe did you move to Morocco just because you wanted to? What was the reason for moving? Let me ask you that.
I have always wanted to live outside of the United States. I had started traveling at 23,
Mhm.
and my son would travel with me as well at certain times. And I've always put out into the atmosphere, I'm going to live outside the country. I'm going to live outside the country. Initially, it was supposed to be Anguilla, British West Indies, but I went and spent several months there and realized that it wasn't it. I love the turquoise water, but the island was just too small. And so after I left, I had gone back to corporate America out of necessity. And then I left it just as quick as I got in there. And one of my friends, her and her husband, came here to open a healing center.
Mhm.
And when I had talked to her several times, she says, come to Morocco and help me. And I'm like, no, I don't want to be in the desert. I need turquoise water. And as luck would have it, she asked a second time, and she needed my support from the administrative role and plus my background in hosting healing retreats. And so I said, you know what, why not? I'll come and do it for a couple of months and, see how I like it. And well, it's been more than a couple of months. I'm enjoying it. Has its ebbs and flows. There are some things that I like. There are some things that I don't like. I love having access to healthy foods at all times at a fraction
Mhm.
of the cost from the United States. I got to experience their health care here because I suffered a mild heart attack a few days after arriving here. Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I suffered a heart attack. I was here for the earthquake. I survived the earthquake. A lot of
Oh
challenging
my.
things have happened here, but I'm still here. And I feel like everything that transpired was supposed to take place here.
Mhm.
I received a lot of support on the journey. And, when it comes to the self-care, I definitely have leaned a lot into that, making healthier choices when it comes to eating, making sure that I'm okay because I had to get a stent put in my artery leading to my heart, and learning how to allow my feminine energy to overshadow my masculine versus the other way around, and
Oh,
receive the
yeah.
support of people. So definitely a lot of self-care going on here. And I like to call it soul care because I'm allowing myself to go within.
Yeah, I love that. So I was associating the move to Morocco with self-care just because of what I was maybe thinking, maybe a less pressure over there than maybe it is over here, right? And then it's nice to hear that
Yeah,
there's
looks different.
more access to healthier food, and the lifestyle is a lot different than it is over here. So that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing, you know, I always like to end off with the self-care. So can you tell everyone then, outside of the healthy eating, what are you doing like for yourself? Um, do you like journal? Are you walking? Are you doing like anything else?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the things.
I haven't driven a car since August of last year. Where my apartment is located is very center city.
Yeah.
So I have my pedometer thing on because it's charging now. And I get in at least 5,000 to 10,000 steps a day on the
Okay.
days when I go out. I am a huge advocate for journaling. That's one of the requirements when my clients work with me.
Mhm.
And I have a meditation practice that I do twice a day. I am huge on meditation. I like to say meditation saves lives, yours and mine. Um,
Well, let
and
me ask you real
doing
quick.
my best not to stress about things that are not in my control.
I
Yeah.
love that. So, quickly about meditation, because I know that a lot of people struggle with meditation, saying like, I can't get my brain to stop. And, do you have any tips for that since you are, highly into meditation? Can you
Yeah.
share something
So
with
the
us?
biggest tip that I can tell, yeah, the biggest tip that I can share is there's no right or wrong way to meditate. There's no right or wrong way to meditate. You can meditate for 2 minutes and you've meditated. And I've meditated. You have to identify what's the best way for you to get quiet. And it happens over time. It's not going to happen immediately. I've been meditating for 12, 15 years. You can decide if you want to have guided meditation where someone takes you on a journey. You can have music meditation. You can meditate when you walk. It's finding what's right for you. Personally, I have found that I like to listen to European men. Their voices resonate with me, and it has to be a male voice. I don't, because I work with women, I don't want it to be a female voice. Mm-hmm. And you give yourself small increments of sitting in silence, of turning down the volume. Sometimes you may wake up early in the morning, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, because before that, the brain is consistently moving. And once the world wakes up, the brain starts back moving. So somewhere between 2 and 4 is when there's silence that kicks in. And you can just sit in calm and just meditate and not really just be moving. Like sometimes we get out the bed and rush versus I'm going to wake up and simply lay here for a little while, allowing myself to get centered, allowing myself to breathe in from my diaphragm and just relax the body and drop the shoulders and sit in peace.
Yeah. And not pick up your phone and not check your notifications, just relax for a minute. I think that a lot of people think that with meditation, as soon as their mind starts to wander, that it's over, like they failed, right? And it's hard for them to bring themselves back to the meditation. And so my thing was when I was meditating was even when I would wander off, I would still bring myself back and try to focus again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So where can, if someone wants to work with you or someone wants to connect with you on social media, where can we find you online? Where are you at?
So if you want to learn more about the work that I do in my healing retreats, you can go to my website, tinachines.com. And on social media, I do lives on TikTok. And that's Tina C. Hines, as well as Facebook is Tina C. Hines Life Transformation Specialist. And Instagram is Tina C. Hines 50. So if you're looking for a live, I do it on TikTok. I don't do it that much on the other social media platforms.
It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much, Tina.
Thank you for having me.
And there you have it. I want to encourage you to remember that being a mom who runs her own business is not easy. We all struggle, but just keep moving forward and don't forget to make time for yourself. As moms, we are usually the first thing to go to the bottom of the list. If your business is overwhelming you and you need real solutions, not just some sugar-coated suggestions, apply to work with me at ritasuzanne.com/apply.